Ladies and gentlemen, we must continue. Second part of our symposium, please. Sit down, please. And now we have... Где Monsignor? Он должен быть. Yes. We have a very important guest from Italy, Monsignor Jean-Marie Gervais. Как надо читать? Gervais? Французский, да? Gervais. Head of the National Structure Osservatorio di Pazze, Italy. Thank you very much, sir. And now, you can begin. Thank you very much.
L'energia nucleare nell'Europa centrale, stabilità e indipendenza. Introduzione. L'energia non è soltanto una questione tecnica o economica, è una delle forme più profonde della forza di una comunità, perché sostiene il lavoro, la continuità, la dignità della vita quotidiana e la fiducia nel domani. In tempi di incertezza, quando la fragilità dei sistemi emergono con chiarezza, diventa evidente quanto sia importante disporre di basi solide e durature. In questa prospettiva, l'energia nucleare torna a essere considerata non solo come una soluzione industriale, ma come un segno di responsabilità verso il futuro. Vediamo adesso, evidentemente, il ruolo dell'Europa centrale. Paesi come la Polonia, la Repubblica Ceca, la Slovacchia, l'Ungheria, Romania e Bulgaria scelgono il nucleare come elemento centrale della propria strategia energetica. In questa scelta si riflettono la consapevolezza dei limiti dell'attuale modello energetico e la volontà di costruire una maggiore autonomia. L'Europa centrale, che conosciamo tutti, appare così come una regione, vasta regione, che non si limita a seguire i cambiamenti, ma che contribuisce a orientarlo, cercando un equilibrio maturo tra rinnovabili, industria e fonti programmabili. Stabilità e responsabilità in questa scelta. Il valore più grande del nucleare è la sua capacità di offrire continuità. In un mondo segnato da oscillazioni improvvise, questa continuità diventa quasi un bene comune, una presenza silenziosa ma essenziale che sostiene la rete elettrica, protegge le imprese, riduce l'instabilità dei prezzi e garantisce una base affidabile per lo sviluppo. L'energia nucleare, proprio per la sua natura costante e pianificabile, rappresenta una scelta di prudenza e di lungimiranza. Non promette l'immediato, evidente, ma costruisce ciò che deve durare, che dura. Vediamo adesso esempi concreti di un cammino già avviato in Europa centrale. Questo orientamento non resta teorico, ma si traduce in decisioni concrete. Per esempio, la Polonia sta costruendo il suo proprio impianto nucleare con l'obiettivo di rafforzare l'indipendenza energetica. Vediamo adesso la Repubblica Ceca. La Repubblica Ceca continua a investire
The Czech Republic continues to invest in expanding its nuclear sites, recognizing this source as essential to its future.
Una risorsa indispensabile per il futuro. Dove siamo adesso? La Slovacchia.
Slovakia has long made nuclear energy a central part of its energy balance. Hungary is advancing the PAX-2 project as a strategic response to the need for stability. And Romania and Bulgaria, too, see nuclear power as a tool for continuity, modernization, and obviously sovereignty. Geopolitics and freedom. Energy independence is never only a matter of supply. It's also a form of political vulnerability.
Energetica non è solo una questione di approvvigionamento, è anche una forma di vulnerabilità politica.
Reducing exposure to gas and oil imports means giving nations back part of their decision-making freedom. And that is very true. In this sense, nuclear power does not merely diversify the energy mix, it also strengthens states' ability to avoid passively absorbing external pressure. It's a choice that combines strategic intelligence with a desire for independence. A broader vision of the future. Central Europe may become the place where a new harmony is tested between progress and moderation, between technology and responsibility, between innovation and the common good. The energy future cannot rest on a single principle, but on the ability to relate different sources and needs in a balanced synthesis. In this framework, nuclear power is not an ideological alternative, but part of a higher and more orderly vision of progress. Conclusion. For Central Europe, nuclear energy is not a return to the past, but an act of faith in the future. It is a choice that speaks of stability, sovereignty, and responsibility, but also of a deeper commitment to protecting the common good, integrated into a balanced and thoughtful energy policy. It can help build a Europe that is safer a Europe that is more autonomous, and a Europe that is more faithful to its historical mission. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Я буду продолжать на русском, потому что мосье скоро русский понимает, чем английский.
I will switch into Russian right now. So we'll continue in Russian. I would like to thank you for support, and I'd like to thank you. Basically, most of the people here speak Russian, and some people speak Russian even better than I do. Like, for example, Mr. Jan Chernogorsky, who does.
Это тебе комплимент только, не верь.
It's just a compliment, however. You should not trust me with that. Actually, I would like to introduce a very important person right now who's been speaking to the last few symposiums here. Isabel Kassel, a journalist and researcher of international crisis regions, Middle East, Balkans, South America.
She is from Germany. With pleasure, we hear you. Please.
Thank you very much. I am also currently the project manager of the European Peace Project, which I started together with Ulrike Guerreau. And also we started this year the new think tank, European Transcontinental Initiative. So I will talk a bit about energy and a bit about geopolitics and trying to piece it together. We now live in a world where energy is also a weapon. The third installment of the cinematic trilogy based on Frank Herbert's Dune is coming out soon. In this fictional alternate reality, it is said, who controls the spice controls the universe. President Trump must be led by similar beliefs, thinking who controls the oil controls the world. But it is not as easy anymore, because this is the old geopolitics. The new geopolitics says resilience is the new power. How can we achieve that? How can we avoid the risks of import dependency, build lasting new partnerships, and secure the physical energy routes? I will address this in 3 points. First, avoiding import dependency, structural diversification. Every country should naturally be sovereign in its decisions regarding its energy supply. Diversification is certainly not a bad thing, particularly in the event that, for whatever reason, a source of energy supply fails, whether due to war, the impassability of a transport route, or the sabotage of a transport infrastructure. I think we all know what I mean. Obviously, it is crucial to own and control one's own energy infrastructure, especially in Europe. The clearance sale of the Nord Stream pipelines to the USA is completely unacceptable. The USA do not only want to force overpriced fracking gas upon us, but also want to continue to dominate us in terms of foreign policy. We in Europe have to get Nord Stream pipelines repaired and running as originally planned with Russian gas. The sanctions have to be lifted for mutual benefit. Generally, the guiding principle surely remains proximity, affordability, safety, and cleanliness. I am aware that progress has been made regarding the operational lifespans of nuclear power plants, waste reduction, and similar issues. At the same time, as evidenced by both the war in Iran and the proxy war in Ukraine, we see that nuclear power plants are struck during a conflict or even deliberately targeted, the consequences can be catastrophic, coming perilously close even to the effects of nuclear weapons attack. There is no defense against this, and it appears that this issue is, to date, being discussed far too little. Then there is the demand side, diversification. The cheapest barrel of oil, of course, is the one you don't burn. Energy efficiency is the ultimate geopolitical hedge. For every 1% improvement in energy intensity, a nation reduces its import bill by roughly 2% and its political leverage to suppliers. South Korea, for example, shows this. Despite zero domestic oil, its energy intensity is half the global average. That is also sovereignty. Second, successful long-term mutual partnerships and trust building. With shared investment, long-term contracts with escape clauses, and political alignment beyond the barrel. How to find new long-term partnerships that last beyond the next election or price spike? History shows that energy partnerships fail when they are asymmetric, one side needs, the other dictates. The best partnerships are those where both parties gain mutual benefit and suffer both if the deal breaks. When negotiating new contracts, insisting on reciprocal infrastructure investments is crucial. You build a terminal in their port, they build a storage facility in your territory. Thus, fates are tied together. Long-term contracts need flexibility clauses. After 2022, spot markets went wild. The winners were nations that had 10 to 20-year contracts with price review mechanisms. Qatar's LNG deals with China and India include clauses that allow renegotiation if prices triple. That prevents the supplier from holding the buyer hostage. Also, inserting non-weaponization clauses is crucial. Explicit language that energy cannot be cut for political reasons with binding international arbitration. The Energy Charter Treaty is too weak and needs to be rewritten. Political alignment beyond energy. Successful partnerships pair energy with trade, technology, and security. When scouting new partners, ask, does this nation share our view on the world? Noteworthy in this context, I think, is the recent joint declaration by Russia and China on the transformation of a multipolar world as a strategic protective system to prevent a renewed division of the world into a rigid bloc logic. Russia represents a Eurasian hinterland, an energy supplier, a resource base, a land corridor, and a safeguard against maritime vulnerability for China as well as for Europe. The more insecure sea routes become, the more valuable Russia becomes. But it is not only that. The reference to the UN Charter in its entirety is important and remarkable in their declaration. While Western so-called values emphasize territorial integrity and sovereignty, the UN Charter includes indivisible security and conflict resolution through mutual balancing of interests and elimination of root causes. This is crucial to solving the Ukraine-NATO war against Russia, the US-Israel war against Iran, and the Israel against Palestine-Lebanon-Syria war. No state and no alliance may expand its security at the expense of others. The call for the democratization of a more just international relations, as well as the acknowledgement of diversity of world civilizations and values, went out to every nation state to join the effort. Overcoming US Western hegemony, which is self-destructing through its own double standards, decadence and arrogance, and building multipolarity means to prevent dividing the world into new blocks. It means preventing the declining old hegemon, the USA, from dictating rules based on the law of the stronger. It does not mean merely seeking better conditions for individual nation states with the old order, but rather, together with China, Russia, and the other BRIC states, peacefully shaping the new world order. To go more into depth on that, actually to elaborate on Europe's, the continent's role in designing the 21st century and navigating the multi-paradigm shift in the global system, we will hold an international Europe BRICS conference in September 26th to 27th. We will be delighted if you all come to discuss with us. More information you can find on our website of the European Transcontinental Initiative and the East-West Forum, as the conference is named. That leads us to the third very important point. Security energy transport routes, from choke points to resilience. So when you have diversified supply and locked-in partners, but energy still has to move. Securing the world's energy transport routes seems to be the biggest challenge. 7 choke points move 80% of global oil. The Strait of Hormuz, the Bab el-Mandeb, the Suez Canal. No nation can or should guard all of them alone. We need route redundancy. If a choke point closes, an alternative is needed. Build overland corridors. It might be expensive at first, but will bring a lot more security in the future. The southern gas corridor from Azerbaijan to Europe bypasses the Suez and Turkey Straits. The INSTC, International North-South Transport Corridor, connects India to Russia via Iran, geopolitically complex but physically alternative. For every major sea route, have a land-based backup, even if it is 30% more expensive. That cost is insurance. There could be a critical energy route protection pact created under the IMO, for example, withstanding naval rotations from major importers like China, Japan, Europe, or India. It could, of course, not be NATO, since that is an outdated, dangerous, warmongering alliance, instigating and prolonging wars, and because Russia and China are also users. A neutral, rules-based security umbrella is needed here, embedded in a new security architecture and international relations of a new type in which Europe, the continent, should play a neutral and mediating role between East and West. Subsea infrastructure, pipelines and cables are the invisible arteries. They are vulnerable to anchors, sabotage, and state action. After Nord Stream, no nation can ignore this. Require subsea surveillance corridors using, for example, autonomous underwater vehicles or seabed sensors. Declare major pipelines and cables as protected zones under international law with explicit penalties for interference. I come to my conclusion, from vulnerability to resilience. The current situation shows no nation will truly have energy security because it has the largest tanker fleet or is the biggest military power. Actually, the USA, with all their record-breaking military budgets, lost every war they started so far. Most of them were about controlling the oil or transit routes. As a collateral benefit of the unjustified war of aggression waged by Israel and the USA against Iran, the petrodollar payment system will collapse. Here too, emphasis should be placed on diversification when establishing a new equitable payment system. A country will have reliable, secure energy supply when it is sovereign in its decisions, when it has multiple ways to get energy, multiple partners with good relations, and multiple layers of protection versus. The cost of the system is not trivial, but the cost of failure, a frozen winter, a blockaded strait, a purported ally blowing up your energy infrastructure, or even an economic war escalating into a hot war, leaving Europe destroyed beyond reconstruction, is civilizationally unacceptable. Europe is not the West, but needs to perceive its own interests. Peaceful economic and cultural cooperation with all its neighbors, non-alignment, and international understanding.
We have finished, yeah?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was very interesting hear you. Yeah? And sometime I thinking maybe now I hear not you, but hear me. absolute same idea and conclusion. Thank you very much. Yeah, we must continue with you, our cooperation. We work together 2 years and a little bit more. And for me, it's very interesting, really, your symposium BRICS. And we are ready to help you. Everything what do you want for your symposium. Thank you very much again. And later, when we... Yes. And later, when we have discussing, I have some question for you. But I'm really under impression what I have now here from you. Isabella Castle. Now we have another guest that is member of all our symposium, Mr. Jan Buzek, yeah, geopolitician, publisher, Czech Republic. Please, Mr. Buzek.
Thank you. I hope translation from English to English is also available. It should have been a joke. I would like to begin my reflection with a fitting quote often attributed to Albert Einstein. If I had only 1 hour to save the world, I would spend 55 minutes identifying the problem and 5 minutes solving it. Our continent remembers the most devastating war in history, the Second World War, which ended 81 years ago with the crushing defeat of Nazi Germany, the destruction of its industry, and colossal pollution losses. That was in 1945. Yet a miracle occurred. The German economy not only rose from the ashes, but within 15 years surpassed all other, and by 1960 became the world's third most powerful economy after United States and Great Britain. However, Germany did not enjoy this position for long. Just 5 years later, in 1965, the Japanese economy overtook it. Both economies, recently destroyed, bombed, and devastated, required only 15 and 20 years, respectively, to return to economic prominence. This was not solely the achievement of Germans and Japanese themselves. It was the result of carefully designed foreign investments, purposeful work, and steadily rising level of education, and last but not least, perhaps first and foremost, the opening of markets for their products. It therefore appeared evident that the development of Germany and Japan required the determined interest of transnational forces rather than merely domestic capital, talent, and industriousness. In the Czech Republic, we have now lived under the current political system for approximately 37 years. We entered it as an educated society, reproducing itself through its own population, and with assets entirely owned by the state and unburdened by foreign debt. After 37 years of democracy, elementary school graduates count on their fingers, and market vendors need calculator to add 40 and 60 together. The original population is declining and being replaced by immigrants. State finances are drawing in debt, perhaps still proportionally lower than in the West European average, yet without a realistic possibility of repayment, since most productive assets have been sold into foreign hands. Before the recent period of what is now called global instability, electricity and gas prices for citizens had already been raised to the highest level in Europe relative to purchase power parity, and water in Czech Republic became more expensive than in Israel. This despite the fact that we are the country with surplus of nuclear generated electricity, which we nevertheless prefer to export cheaply to our Western neighbors. Meanwhile, over those 37 years, our wages have maintained a gap of roughly 2/3 compared to German salaries. We possess rich reserves of hard coal and lignite. Their use, however, has become bounded by draconic emissions allowance traded, again, in Western markets. For too long, we built solar power plants benefiting energy barons under excessively generous subsidized purchase price. Now we are preparing the same fraud against citizens through wind farms. Under socialism, with only slight exaggeration, we were able to build a nuclear power plant ourselves. Today, we are unable even to organize a successful tender process for the same kind of project. State support for individual solar energy may appear appealing, but it is fundamentally unfair because it is ultimately subsidized by those who own little or nothing. This is clear that the Czech Republic cannot function without imports of natural gas and oil. However, dependence could be significantly reduced if building insulation programs continue. At the same time, the current example of China demonstrates that a substantial portion of transport can be shifted towards electromobility. Eventually, even Czech government will build new nuclear power units. Never mind that they may lose twice as much as and include a smaller share of domestic suppliers than competitive alternatives. The government of Czech Republic offers the nation no vision, sets no meaningful goals, and merely carries out a managed dismantling of the state on the edge of social cohesion. And although we may tend to believe that things are different, better somewhere abroad, I have reason to think that this is the European reality shaped by somebody else's interest. The interest of those forces capable to rebuild Germany from ashes within 15 years, or slowly weakening and draining Europe for over 50. Nevertheless, today solar power plants in Czechia generates 4.5 terawatt hours annually, and it represents about 6% of total electricity production. Panels in total are spread on roughly 4,000 hectares, which is equivalent of ideal square with the sites measuring 6.3 kilometers, which is not that much. Solar energy, especially when combined with a storage system and naturally not as a standalone solution, addressed energy security requirements. It requires fewer high voltage transmission networks, and it's less dependent on fuel suppliers. I have no doubt that the Czech Republic is capable of overcoming these energy challenges. First, however, we must separate necessary changes from ideological manuals. Above all, we need to complete the expansion of nuclear energy, preserve our energy self-sufficiency, and avoid destroying our land and water resources with massive wind turbine installations, as happened in Germany and Austria. With all the dramatic news concerning the condition of Druzhba pipeline or navigation of the Strait of Hormuz, in the end, it always becomes down to business. People like us, wiser or simple alike, may debate perspectives and technologies endlessly. Yet ultimately what will matter is ensuring that the real owners of Europe and the experts in extracting human resources can continue in maximizing their profits. For those of us gathered here together, it is important that expert opinions concerning energy self-sufficiency and making energy more affordable for households do not eventually become a threat to the experts themselves. Because every kilowatt generated on rooftop or in a backyard is a kilowatt that the big players will never be able to sell you again. Thank you.
Ďakujem veľmi pekne, pán Buzek. Yeah, na slovacky prišiel. I am very sorry. Thank you very much, Mr. Buzek. It's very interesting that when we have pleased our partners give some time for today's speech, we have no idea that 90% you have absolutely same analysis, same idea about future European energy sovereignty. It's very interesting for me, and thank you very much. And we have now 3 persons, very important, and later we can discussing, and everyone can say what they have new conclusion after this today's symposium. Yes, after this absolutely very interesting speeches. Now, Miss Katarina Ondrushova, municipal member parliament, MP.
Hello?
From the Zahori region, region, and later
It's part from Slovakia.
and leader of the National Petition Initiative advocating for a review at the World Farm Deployment Strategy in Slovakia.
Signing the petition.
Deployment. It's absolutely interesting, yeah. And in discussing time, maybe we must have very quick discussion, because Let I tell you why. Please, you can beginning.
Okay,
Miss
Hinek will be translation. And
Okay, I will try it, but I am not a professional, so I will try it somehow.
vážené dámy, vážení páni, nie som energetický expert,
Dear ladies and gentlemen, I am not an energy expert,
ale zastupujem ľudí, ktorí poznajú a vedia, čo je ich domov.
but I am working for people. I'm here for the people who know what is their home and country.
K aktivizmu som sa dostala v roku 2020.
To those activities or activism even, I came in 1920.
Po oznámení, že nad našou dedinou má vyrásť 11 veterných turbín vysokých 270 metrov.
After the announcement that above our village there is a plan to build 11 wind turbines high about 250
270.
270 meters. 207. We call it Frankenstein turbine. Yeah.
Keď idete do Rakúska na letisko, tí majú okolo 100 metrov.
If you go from Pressburg to from here from Bratislava to Austria, it is only 100 meters.
Yeah.
So it's 3 times more high.
Aktivistkou som sa nestala, pretože som to plánovala.
I did not plan to be an anti-wind activist.
Ale aktivistkou ma urobil štát a spôsob, akým sa dnes rozhoduje o ľuďoch a bez ľudí.
But the state administration has made the activist from me, namely the way how they behave to normal people in Slovakia.
Rokovala som v Bruseli, zapojila som sa do európskej petície proti veterným parkom.
She was at the meeting and negotiation in Brussels. She was active in European petition.
A spolupracujem s odborníkmi, vedcami.
And I cooperate with the experts, also with scientists.
A občanmi zo Slovenska aj zo zahraničia.
And people, normal citizens from Slovakia and from abroad.
Čím viac sa tejto téme venujem, tým viac vidím,
The more I'm interested and involved in this theme, I see
že dnešná diskusia už dávno nie je len o energii.
that today's discussion is not only on energy.
Je to otázka zdravia,
It's a question of health,
zákonitosti,
law or consequences,
dôvery verejnosti a budúcnosti slovenskej krajiny.
jak se řekne důvěra, the trust of the nation to the government.
A keď sa občan ozve a keď si dovolí položiť otázku,
And if any citizens have some questions or some objections,
okamžite dostane nálepku dezolát,
he is stigmatized by the word desolate or Russian agent and so on.
dezinformátor
Disinformation.
a vedie hybridnú vojnu.
And he becomes a part of some hybrid war.
A viete, kto nás platí?
And do you know who pays us?
Naše vlastné rodinné rozpočty.
Our own family budgets.
No Putin, no.
No Putin, no Soros.
Obetujeme svoj čas, svoje rodiny.
We devote our time and families.
A často počúvam otázku, keď niekde idem.
And often I hear the question when I go somewhere.
Mami, kam zase ideš? Zase vrtule?
Mother, where are you going? Also the wind? The same time the wind?
Yes. Ale pýtať sa nie je dezinformácia. Pýtať sa je právo občana.
But there is a difference between the question and the disinformation. The citizen or any people has the right to have a question and to ask.
Kde sú nezávislé dlhodobé štúdie o zdraví ľudí žijúcich pri veterných turbínach?
Where are the independent long-time studies
about people living under wind farms.
Kde sú reálne údaje o infrazvuku a nízkofrekvenčnom hluku?
There are real data about some infrasound and low frequency sound, low frequency noise.
Kde sú otvorené verejné diskusie za jedným stolom s vedcami?
There are some open discussion with the real scientists, not ecological activists.
Lekármi, investormi a občanmi.
And the discussion between physicians, between investors or
Yes.
the people interested on this business, and normal people.
World Health Organization už v roku 2018 priznala,
World Health Organization declared in when
2018,
in the year 2018
že veterné turbíny vytvárajú špecifický nízkofrekvenčný hluk a infrazvuk.
that wind turbines create some specific low frequency sound and noise and infrasound.
Zároveň však uviedla, že pri infrazvuku
At the same time, they declares that the infrasound
stále neexistuje dostatok dôkazov na určenie bezpečných limitov.
there is no proofs or even no data to calculate, to declare some safety limits for infrasound.
A práve preto musí platiť princíp predbežnej opatrnosti.
And this is why we should be careful in advance. For example, like with nuclear devices and so on.
Ale nie princíp investorov, postavme to a uvidíme, čo to spôsobí za 10 rokov.
But not the principles of investors. They push, let's build it, and in 10 years we will see.
Slovensko pritom nie je krajina pred energetickým kolapsom.
Slovakia is not a country suffering of energy collapse or energy deficit.
Máme jadrovú energetiku, vodné elektrárne.
We have, I will specify it, Slovakia has about 70% of nuclear power in the mix and about 20% of water because they have Gabčíkovo dam and Černivách dams.
A vysoký podiel bezemisnej výroby elektriny.
And high ratio of emissionless energy production.
Slovensko je dnes energeticky stabilná a v mnohých obdobiach prebytková krajina.
Slovakia is now energetically stable and even surplus country. They export energy.
Ročne vyvážame významný objem elektriny.
Some part, significant part of energy produced, of emissionless energy from Slovakia is produced, and I add, even if they finish Mochovce, number 4, the exportation will go higher.
Sme husto obývaná krajina.
They are a country with a high density of population.
A preto je úplne legitímne pýtať sa,
and it's fully legitimate to ask,
či je naozaj potrebné meniť slovenský vidiek na priemyselnú zónu veterných parkov.
If it's really necessary or why it is necessary to change the Slovak country, the Slovak land, into the industrial zone producing wind farms.
Kvôli biznisu,
due to the business,
kvôli politickým cieľom,
due to the political goals,
keď dôsledky na ľudí, krajinu a kvalitu života dodnes nikto nevie jednoznačne garantovať.
when the impact for people, for the country and for the life of people, one cannot define what will be in the future.
Najväčší problém vidím v spôsobe, akým sa to celé predáva ľuďom.
The main problem is a manner how it is sold or pushed to the people in the country.
Investori chodia po dedinách ako podomoví predajcovia hrncov.
The investors walk around villages as people selling some pots or some home selling.
Sľubujú lacnú elektrinu, bohatstvo.
They promise the cheap energy. They promise people to be rich, to have money.
A Európska únia, že to prikázala.
And that it's forced by the law of European Union.
A ľuďom sa rozpráva rozprávka o záchrane planéty.
And some fairy tale about saving the planet is told to the people.
Ale o miliardovom biznise, dotáciách.
But the subsidies and the billion euro business is not mentioned.
O obchodných záujmoch a vyšších nákladoch v budúcich faktúrach za elektrínu sa nehovorí.
And also business interests or future invoices for electricity, including the regulated part for transportation.
Ľudia prestávajú veriť štátu.
People are slowly stopping to believe to the state.
Lebo vidia, že ich názor je často len divadlom pre verejnosť.
Because they see that their opinion is very often the theater for the population.
Napríklad teraz sme mohli podávať pripomienky strategickému dokumentu o veterných parkoch.
For example, now we were allowed to give some remarks to the strategical document of the government concerning wind parks, wind farms,
kde celú republiku dali do jedného strategického dokumentu pre výstavbu.
All the country, all the Slovak Republic was put as a whole into one strategic document.
Pripomienky sme mohli podávať do 13. mája vrátane, teda do polnoci.
The notes were allowed to be given to the state up to the 13th of May, up to midnight, the 13th of May.
A komisia ich prerokúvala.
And the commission discussed those remarks
13. mája, ešte teda pred ukončením lehoty.
On the 13th of May, because before closing, that's that time, it means before midnight.
Takýto postup vyvoláva vážne pochybnosti o tom,
this approach generates serious doubts.
Či boli všetky doručené pripomienky riadne vyhodnotené.
If all those notes and remarks from the people were seriously evaluated.
A či bolo verejnosti reálne umožnené vykonať jej procesné práva.
And if the population were allowed to apply their process rights.
Aký signál to vlastne vysielajú ľuďom?
What kind of signal do they transmit? It means the government to the people.
Že všetko je len fraška.
That everything is only a comedy.
Že náš názor je formalita.
That the opinion of the Slovak people is a formality.
A že všetko je rozhodnuté ešte skôr, než sa môžeme vyjadriť.
That everything is decided before people can even comment it or to do something.
A teraz poviem niečo, čo sa netýka len Slovenska, ale pomaly všetkých štátoch, kde investori sa snažia postaviť tú veternú elektráreň.
Now I will say something which doesn't touch only Slovakia, but all the countries where the investors or investment capital tries to build such devices.
Štát nielenže ignoruje vlastných občanov,
The state ignores their own citizens.
ohýba vlastné zákony,
They turn around. They do not respect their own law.
ale pod zámienkou zelenej politiky pošliapáva aj medzinárodné dohody.
But under the philosophy of green policy, it does not respect international law and international agreements.
Napríklad Aurský dohovor,
For example, AAUR agreement.
dohovor o krajine,
The agreement on country or landscape.
základné princípy európskeho práva vrátane smernice RED 3.
The basic principles of European law, including the directive which is called RED 3 and most of its articles.
My sa pýtame a neprestaneme sa pýtať,
We are asking, and we don't stop to be asking,
kto dal právo ničiť krásnu krajinu, ako je Slovensko,
who gave the right to destroy a beautiful country like Slovakia
v mene súkromného biznisu.
in the name of the private business.
Sme za pokrok a modernú energetiku,
We are for the progress and for the modern energy,
ale nie na úkor zdravia ľudí a života na vidieku.
but not in contradiction with the health and with the life and living environment of people living in the country.
Veríme v rozumnú cestu,
We believe to the reasonable way
vyrábať elektrínu tam, kde sa aj spotrebuje,
to produce electricity on the place and in the time when it is consumed,
nie meniť slovenské regióny na priemyselné zóny pre zisky investorov.
not to change Slovakia into industrial zones only for sake of the profit of the investors.
My sami doma máme vrt, zem, voda.
We have at home we have how to say vrt. We have a drill. We have a drill, water and heating.
And solárne a zelenú strechu.
And solar panels and the green roof.
Nechceli by sme sa dožiť toho,
We don't want to see the situation
pokiaľ nebudú preskúmané škodlivé účinky veterných elektrární,
until the harm which is making the wind turbines could be carefully explored.
aby nám jedného dňa povedali, prepáčte, pomýlili sme sa,
That one day they can say to us, we are sorry, we were mistaken.
ako sme to prednedávnom počuli z úst, alebo teda by som to povedala, z Európskej únie.
As we have heard it in European Commission or for example German nuclear energy.
Práve tento omyl uvrhol nemeckú ekonomiku do obrovských problémov.
This mistake makes very deep problems to the German economics and industry.
Aj značnú časť Európy.
And also a significant part of Europe.
Tak sa na záver pýtam,
And my final question is,
kto poniesie trestnoprávnu a morálnu zodpovednosť za omyl?
who will bear the, how to say, trestně právní? No, responsibility, trestně právně is crime responsibility. Legal responsibility even in the same of the crime.
S prehnaným budovaním veterných zdrojov.
It's overpushed building of wind farms.
Za poškodené zdravie ľudí, zničenú krajinu.
For the harm for people's health, for the destroyed country.
A dôsledky, ktoré už nebude možné vrátiť späť.
And the irreversible consequences of such behavior.
Musíme si uvedomiť,
we must take into account
že je jedno, na ktorú stranu sme orientovaní.
That it's not important on which side are we oriented in the political sense.
Koho volíme?
Whom we elect.
Týka sa nás to nás všetkých.
It touches everybody of us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Вы понимаете по-русски? Хорошо. Я буду по-русски.
Okay, I will be speaking Russian so that you should be able to understand it without translation. We are now going to have another presentation, then a discussion. And during that discussion, I will introduce myself to you. And you will start hating me for some time, very strongly, because back in the 80s, I will tell you in detail, 1987, I was very well known in Armenia. And I was calling myself the father of wind energy in Armenia, and I was head of the Vita environmental movement. And actually, it contributed to the demise of the Soviet Union, just like the guy sitting next to you who put Czechoslovakia to ruin. No, Soviet Union is myself. And then myself and him became such anti-liberals. We're so terrible anti-liberals now. Actually, that evolution is quite curious. And now what I was hearing from you sounded just terrible. And I thought I would discuss it with Mr. Ugrik and the group that we are putting together. We're putting together a strong group within the European Parliament, which will fight for Europe's energy sovereignty. And that's why we gave this name to our symposium. And whatever you said should be delivered very loud and clear there. The arguments against the wind-based energy that I loved so much. But, I mean, time will excuse me. At that time, we believed that that wind energy will save us.
Very important person. Anahit Hananyan, she is Armenia. Professor at Turan University. Turan is anti-Armenia. Vice President of the Eastern European Association of Analytical Psychologists. Kazakhstan. Armenia, Kazakhstan. Please. You have? Okay.
It's not Europe, but he's chairman of Eastern European Association.
I want to say good day to everyone and to say many thanks for Dr. Grigorian for this invitation and for organizing such very interesting. It's good. For organizing such interesting symposium. And I want to say some words, because I am Jungian analyst, the first in the Asia and in the Romania, the first certificated.
I tried to joke, but unsuccessfully.
No, it gives me a very opportunity to see deeper maybe than others, you see. And I agree with Katarina that it is not only energy symposium, but I can say that it is more geopolitical and more psychological, because in the foundation of everything there is some psychological rules, yes? And what I want to share with you what I see now. First of all, I can say that there is people have a fear of lost independence. You see, and when you put together this energy independence, it is a little dangerous for some people, because they want, in any case, be independent and to have this independence. And three words are very, very painful and vulnerable emotional for people. It's independence first, second it is sovereignty, and third cultural identity. And all are very, very sensitive for these words. So what I can suggest, maybe this problem we could put in another plan. For example, how to solve energy problem for preserve independence and national and identity. Maybe
Complicated.
it's complicated, but maybe it is has good influence on the mind than energy independence. Maybe. I say it's only suggestion. Yes, and second point about what I want to share with you, that we are witnessing the paradox now, yes? Because all people want to be independent, to have independence, but at the same time they are not ready, prepared to live wars. This is this is paradox, and so with this paradox we should deal this paradox. Yes, we should. I think we should be skilled to speak with people in the right way, and then they could understand what they want to choose. Because some part of Europe. So I think it is because one part of Europe, they deal with people in the name of to be independent in any case. And this is for you part, because they fight with this, yes, with this point that maybe it is good to choose another way, to choose the way of rationality, decision, and so on. And the topic of my presentation is put in another plan, but it's connected with national and cultural identity. I suggest that if you give the guarantee of cultural identity, it will be easier to speak about this energy program, because some of people, they identify independence with cultural identity, And when you tell them that you do everything for protection of cultural identity, the situation of people, of citizens, will be better. I think so, because I can say that I work with people over the world, with clients over the world, and with clients of Europe too. I prepare them for this certification of member of IAP. And I want to start that historical development of any country goes through different phases, entering a union that gives it a certain foundation for development, and then a partial distancing from this union in order to return to its roots, to its national identity and interests. At present, I observe the second phase of development in Slovakia as well as in the other European countries. When I speak about cultural identity, I speak about integrating one's national traditions, values, and symbols more deeply into life. And in Slovakia's state documents on digital transformation, artificial intelligence is regarded as part of the strategy's digital infrastructure alongside to IoT, 5G, big data, blockchain, and others. The development of AI is becoming a way for the country to strengthen its own subjectivity in the European and global digital space. This points to the contractive potential of AI. However, AI can also blur cultural identity or create an illusion in young people that they know their own culture. Cultural identity is not transmitted through information alone. A young person may know the history of their country, its language, traditions, religion, music, and myths, yet all this may remain external knowledge. Culture becomes truly one's own only when it's transmitted through people and experienced emotionally. In other words, the problem is not AI itself, but the fact that it can be deepened an already existing gap between knowledge about culture and the feeling of belonging to a culture. And now we speak about belonging to the culture, yes, because it is the real, you speak all about the real interests of Slovakia or Czech Republic, and it is not outer knowledge, but it is inner knowledge. It's very important. As a Jungian analyst, I now observe among young people all over the world who are excessively engaged with AI a growing gap between feelings and affective sphere and the intellect, the affective sphere and intellect. Traditional culture is not simply transmitted, it is recreated each time in the relationship between generations. There is a significant difference between culture as the living co-creation of generations and culture as the consumption of a ready-made digital product. Laws, countries in the European Union that are the first to recognize the distinction between digital culture and living culture will be better able to defend their cultural identity. It's the first key point of my presentation. Digital culture often presents cultural content as already prepared, processed, and intellectualized without the living participation of close people and without emotional co-creation. UNESCO warns that generative AI in education may reduce human interaction and weaken the socio-emotional dimension of communication and learning. AI can speak about culture, but it cannot create the presence of culture in a person's inner world. The main danger does not lie in AI itself, but in the fact that it can create an illusion of possessing culture and development. A person knows a great deal, responds quickly, formulates thoughts well, yet experiences little, has little living connection with others, and feels little on a symbolic level. All develops primarily the rational cognitive function, whereas cultural identity is rooted in the symbolic, affective, and imaginal life of the psyche. National and cultural identity must move from the sphere of information into the sphere of transmission between people within families, schools, and universities. Only then will it not be destroyed by AI, because it will no longer be external knowledge, but an inwardly experienced and emotionally valuable reality. Culture must become a space of living experience, not only of digital representation. Culture is preserved when young people not only know symbols, but when these symbols become part of their inner world, and when the state protects its most important national symbols of identity through legislation. It means that, for example, it may be Slovak or maybe Czech government to write about 10 or 15 very famous, very deep symbols of your identity, and they should be protected by the governments. This is also very important. From a Jungian point of view, one may say that AA strengthens logos, differentiation, analysis, structure, speed, and the rational processing of information. Cultural identity, however, requires eras, connection, relationship, and emotional participation. Therefore, the task of a state that seeks to preserve and develop the cultural identity of its citizens, especially young people, is, in my view, not to allow the logos of digital technologies to absorb the eros of the Slovakians' cultural identity. This danger exists in every European country. And now during your presentation, I see the eras, because there is a live connection with your own interests, yes, and very deep desire to solve the situation. To preserve young people's cultural belonging, to preserve culture, and therefore state and cultural independence, is possible only if culture is transmitted not as digital knowledge or dogmatic ideology, very important, because it's the Brussels dogmatic ideology, yes, but as a living experience of participation and interaction. And if through specific programs, young people can restore the balance between intellect and feeling, between the logos and eros of the psyche. But only if AI serves a bridge to culture and not as a substitute for culture. In the age of AI, the preservation of cultural belonging is possible, but it requires a conscious restoration of the connection between intellectual and knowledge and lived experience. AI can expand the intellect, but the feeling of belonging to a culture is formed only through living emotional relationships that you need language, symbols, rituals, values, and art into a cultural core. Therefore, the task of education and the family is to bring young people back to a purely informational and intellectual space, into the space of living emotional connection with the elements of cultural identity. A human being needs both cultural historical roots and digital networks. Without roots, one loses depth. Without networks, one loses connection with the present. For this purpose, it is necessary to create special educational programs that combine digital literacy with the development of feelings connected to a cultural identity. Such programs should be developed primarily by psychologists, cultural theorists, and historians. Thank you very much.
Спасибо. Сейчас мы будем начинать дискуссии.
Thank you very much. We're going to start with a
Господин Беран,
quick discussion. Mr. Biran is on the run, so he would like to ask a quick question. Please use microphones. As far as I can hear, here's a question. It's off the mic, but he thanks us for this people's culture. But what is happening right now? Currently, we can see that in our country, there's a deep respect to the German culture. Imagine what they make. They make BMWs, they make Mercedes. We do respect them. We do respect German technical culture, German engineering. But as far as the energy sector is concerned, they dumped all of the atomic energy and have their problems with their cars. That's number one. Second of all, as far as the state approach is concerned, imagine that, for example, in Armenia, the Ararat mountain is covered with the wind farms, with the wind power plants. It's impossible to imagine. But as far as we can see, where we live, we have knights living there. And they would like to destroy it by installing wind farms there. People's culture is necessary. That's why today we have a different approach. We wouldn't want this Czech Ararat, so to speak, to be destroyed. We need to establish dialogue with the state, but we may want to oppose the state. That would be the beginning of a revolution. I agree with you that we need to use culture with this approach. Without faith, without culture, we wouldn't be able to do anything. I would honestly ask everyone to use microphones and speak into the microphone, because it's very hard to hear what people say.
During Christmas period in Slovakia. And it's a bibliography of scientific studies. They have collected 300 parts of literature, yeah, and 600 sources of information. It's a set or a bibliography of scientific monographies. It's translated into Slovak. And it's on the health influence of the wind parks.
Preto voláme po zásade opatrnosti, ak sa vyriešia zdravotné veci, nech sa to stavia, ale so sedliackým rozumom tam, kde to môže byť a nebude to škodiť. Ďakujem.
And this is why they want some to be careful before those problems are solved.
Окей, спасибо. Я открываю сейчас дискуссию.
Okay, thank you very much. Now I start a discussion, a panel discussion, followed by yet another final presentation for today, followed by the continuation of our panel discussion, and in the end we will be reading the resolution that we have so far prepared on behalf of our forum, of our symposium. This will go to different institutions and organizations in Europe. We'll do that step by step. Right now, I would like to start our discussion using a different expression by Albert Einstein. It's not the one that was introduced by Mr. Buzek. It's like, I resolved all of the humankind problems for 1 hour and 55 minutes. No. It's just like not possible to do. But it's another example that I very often use here on Symposium. He said, back in the day, he said, I don't really know which kind of weapons will be used during the Third World War, but I clearly know that the Fourth World War will be fought with sticks and stones. And the point of our conference here today, Mr. Chernogorsky's example. We've established a few examples of Bratislava as the capital of peace. So the whole point here is that we need to make sure everything we do right, that the peace treaty is signed here for Bratislava. I had a painful idea to invite Mr. Putin and Mr. Trump here. I even agreed with Robert Fico, and he established that meeting with Putin, but we couldn't really pull it off with Trump, so we decided to put it on hold and forget about that crazy idea. As far as Ms. Ondrusheva point is concerned, I remember writing thesis about air pollution, and when I was young enough, when I was 34 years of age, in 1985, I was sent to a region where I had fallen ill to some environmental pollution-related diseases, but there was no specific policy developed back in the day. A famous politician back in the day had shown up, and I wouldn't want to accuse all of the politicians, but what all those green organizations did back in the day was very, very specific, just like respected Pani spoke about that. But then I became a leader of environmental movement. I was father of wind power everywhere, so I introduced that as a foundation of the environment protection movement in the Soviet area. It was also related to the collapse of the Soviet Union and fight for freedom of Nagorno-Karabakh. But after the collapse of Soviet Union, I took a look at that with different eyes. I remember writing thesis when I became a PhD about problems of alternative energy. When I sensed that people didn't really know what to do as managers, and they would like to take hold of power. I couldn't tolerate that. I was against all those Democrats, and I spoke openly about that. And I had been shot at, I had 2 bullets shot at, and I was actually thrown out of that hell to this heaven country, which is called Slovakia. I wanted to go to Germany, but I had been wounded, so I moved here to Slovakia because I had established very nice ties with Czechoslovakia. In 1993, I arrived there to Czechoslovakia, but the country had already split into 2. I didn't know about that. I lived for a month in Slovakia. I was exposed to treatment, and then I said, no, I'm not leaving this country. I'm staying here in Slovakia. I'm not leaving this country for Germany. And that's my story. And we had been fallen ill with liberalism, so to speak, back in the day. Liberalism was shining like a diamond a long time ago, but now we're against it. Now we're against it. Ms. Ondrusheva represented that quite clearly. Nowadays, it's our reality, and we very clearly see it. All of us are trying to oppose the pseudo-liberalism, the fake liberalism, because there is nothing genuinely liberal remaining. The point of our symposium, the point of our conference, is creating a group of people that will be fighting for energy sovereignty of Europe. And in reality, it means that the way the Soviet Union had been destroyed partially by the environmental movement, with this environmental movement will be destroying the European Union. I promise you, I guarantee you, 100%, that's exactly what's going to happen. This will be the foundation to break the bone of the European Union. I can see what is happening here, and I agree with Ms. Hanan with what has been said. Back in 1989, I had written a famous article in English, Economy or Environment. It was published in the newspapers, and it had created a turmoil. It created a furor in the press and elsewhere. Seems like I had been positioned as the leader of the environment protection movement. And I said, well, what seems to Armenia is going to die from is very bad environment, because, you know, there would be genetic changes, or Armenia is very likely to die from economic outcomes, because the nuclear power plant had been shut down and people only had electricity for a couple of hours per day. We had no hot running water back in the day when that atomic power plant had been shut down. And that's how we lived day by day. And I remember My children flew to Moscow, and when they arrived to Moscow and they saw the lights in the street everywhere, and they were surprised. How come it's late at night and there is still electricity available? Why do they not save power in Moscow? My children were so surprised after Armenia. And so, seems like culture, economy, or environment to choose from. Actually, we are suffering from a severe short supply of culture, so to speak. If it's going to continue like that, the Fourth World War will be fought with sticks and stones, because we are at the threshold of a Third World War, and that's the deficit of culture, the spiritual detachment from God, misunderstandings, etc. So I completely agree to what's been said in the final presentation, but I radically disagree with you as well. You did criticize the name of the symposium, energy independence. That seemed to be the name. Seems like that energy independence should be resolved by just people. No, it's not so.
А для элиты сегодня вообще плевать, что думают внизу. То есть вот этот психологический аспект, который вы представили как представитель Юнга, которого я очень люблю и уважаю.
And for the elites, it makes no sense what they're thinking at the bottom. Well, you said you're Jungian. I represent Freud in a way. I don't accept this. I'm saying that this means absolutely nothing, because today's political leaders don't give anything about what people are thinking, even when it comes to elections. And in the elections, either they brainwash people so that they would cast their votes for Igor Matovic, and then all Slovakians would ask themselves, how could it happen that they voted for him? Today, you ask people, and they would say in Armenia, the top one is a little imp, a little devil that nobody would, give a damn about. And now he's become prime minister. So why it happened? Because they brainwashed people. And they kept doing that. So absolutely, today, one shouldn't go into such psychological aspects, because nobody is listening to the people at grassroots. They just do what they have in mind in their psychology, and their psychology is all about money. So this is all I can say about this energy problem today. It has all come about because money makes the world go round. Money makes financial institutions, and military organizations. That's where the money is. That's where the money is. The whole world is in the hands of these guys, part of whom sit in London, where our colleague dwells. My family lives in London, and we know the situation very well. Part of it used to be in the Anglo-Saxon world. Now the situation is changing drastically, dramatically. Focus shifting to China, to Russia. And so World War III is quite possible. So just like Gorbachev, so he ran this perestroika, the restructuring, and where's the Soviet Union now? And now the restructuring of the world is happening. What will it lead to? That the world will be gone. Just read the Apocalypse. So you start reading, and then you start thinking, is it about 2026 or 2036? So I fear that it won't come to 2036. So today, I'm absolutely impressed by the presentations of our experts, who are quite surprising for me, who have shown me the way, a way for the development of nuclear energy that came to me as a pleasant surprise. And I think there's a lot of sense in it. Nuclear energy. Gas, yes. A minimum of 30 to 40 years for Europe is to buy Russian gas. But in 30, 40 years, Russia's gas will be gone. Somebody mentioned Azerbaijani oil. What Azerbaijani oil? Azerbaijani is getting most of its oil by purchasing and then distributing it via Turkey or someone else. In this sense, Iran has a lot, Russia has a lot, but that's a lot for 50 years. Whereas nuclear power, that's where I see the future. And that was a great thought, and also your thought, and also the one from our friend, and this English guy who came up now. You need to do a mix. This mix, this combination, is a very exciting idea from our perspective. And from what I see, cogeneration devices, CHP devices, who was speaking about them today, and other opportunities as well. But this is only about extending the current situation for a couple of decades. As to the humankind as a whole, as I said, I'm kind of a skeptic, so I believe in the Bible. And I know, well, civilization started somewhere, and there would be a point where it will end. 10 years after, 50 years after, that depends on Earth, but it's not going to last forever. Unless we go to some other planets, continuing it there, but it sounds more like science fiction. So in this sense, very good presentations have been made here, extremely professional, and also what made it quite interesting for me was the non-expert or quasi-expert second part, where even the philosophical angle was taken. And so I appreciate a lot what we had today. And the second most important is our first goal, so that we could prepare this resolution, sign it, and send it where it belongs. Lubitsa, is Mr. Hummel online?
Herr Hummel. Schönen guten Tag.
Herr Hummel, good afternoon. I hear you.
Und ich bitte Ihre Wort.
And I'm asking you for your speech.
Ja,
Is it ready?
Fragen, gibt es jemanden, der mir auch helfen kann, die Folien aufzurufen?
If anybody could help me with questions.
Aufzurufen?
Die Folien zu zeigen.
Ja, natürlich.
And show the slides.
Yes, natürlich.
Yes, of course. Lubitsa, do we have his slides?
Herr Himmel, Sie haben geschickt Ihre Rede.
Mr. Himmel,
Haben wir das,
have you sent us your slides? Yes, I have a presentation in PowerPoint sent to you, Lubitsa.
Haben wir
Do we have them
oder nicht?
or not?
Sie haben die, ja.
Herr Himmel,
you
wir
must
haben
have.
keine Präsentation von Ihnen. Wann Sie haben geschickt dann?
I don't think we have your
Heute?
presentation. When did you
Nein, schon vor
send
ein,
it?
zwei
Today?
Tagen. Am
No,
Sonntag.
1 or 2 days on Sunday.
Ah, da
Okay.
ist sie. Da ist sie.
Ah,
Okay, okay.
here it is.
Sehen Sie sie selbst? Ich sehe sie
Can you?
jetzt.
I can see it here myself.
Gut,
Can you
Sie
see
kann
it?
beginnen dann. Okay.
Yes, good. You can begin then. Thank you.
Ja. Also, I will speak in English.
I will
Is this
speak in
okay?
English. Is it okay?
Of course, only English, please.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so thank you very much first for the invitation. I feel honored to be again invited. And it's also for me very motivating to be in a group of people who share the same convictions. Thank you also very much again to Professor Grigorian, because without these relentless efforts, this conference would not have been possible. Special thanks also to Isabel, who was of great help the last time. Okay, let me start with what is a big challenge, especially for Germany, but also for parts of Europe these days. It's the challenge of getting not only enough energy, which means oil and gas, but also to get it to reasonable prices. Let me start with this picture because I think very often you also experience, if you talk to your friends, that whatever we say based on facts and figures is very much influenced if someone, the person we speak to, wants to see Russia as a kind of part of a kind of Soviet Union with imperialistic ambitions, or if the other side has an idea of Russia as a kind of European country with a rich history, which is also trying always to modernize itself and to move forward. And I just come from a discussion today, and this is also kind of a seismograph of the present situation, that the aggression and that the kind of provocations from the West are more and more damage the rest of relationship with Russia today. And it is why I mentioned these last words from the Czech president. But I have to say, words from the German politicians, even the so-called Christian Democrats, are very similar. Let's move to the next slide. So if you allow to focus on the Druzhba pipeline system, we in these days talk a lot about European Union projects, but actually the biggest successful infrastructure project in Europe was not organized from Brussels, but it was, which started in Soviet times, and I'm from the West. It's not about nostalgia. But this Druzhba pipeline system, like other pipelines, they are a really European project. It was a more generation project. It started by young people, and it was continued by the next generation, which is also very rare. And a third, this is also extraordinary. I speak from a German perspective, that infrastructure project was profitable for 58 years, because very often, there is with huge ceremonies, infrastructure project starts, but if it comes to maintenance later, it runs into losses. And so this project stands out. And this is also like in a blood system, and worse until recently, like a blood arteria for especially the German economy, but also, as you know, parts of Hungary, Czech Republic, and Slovakia. Let's have a look on the next slide. This is just to show, it's not a secret, but this is a map of the present Ministry of Economics. And if you look on the pipelines, this is a presentation for the government. There is surprisingly no connection to Russia, and it appears as if the oil would come somewhat from Poland, which is strange. What we also see, this is clear, the West is mainly provided from oil coming the Rotterdam from the Netherlands. But what you see at first glance, there is just no infrastructure, no pipeline net, which can replace the infrastructure from Russia, the pipeline system from the east, from Russia. Let's move to the next slide. So for this audience we have here, I don't have to show it. I put it with the headline, Europe is a peninsula of Asia, because some people in the West, they always think there is kind of, politically, there is a kind of European continent, but there is none. And actually, some politicians were also surprised that now Kazakhstan, which was seen as a kind of alternative, does no longer deliver Kazakh oil, and they also forget or forgot that it was up to the generosity of Russia to allow transport anyway via Russia through the Druzhba. So it was a very strange situation that despite the conflict, Russia, in a very constructive way, allowed Kazakh oil to be transported via Russia up to this oil refinery in East Germany. Next slide, please. So just to give you an overview, sorry that I had to miss your session. I just was in Brussels 2 weeks ago, and it was just after which is always strange, not the 5th, 6th, 10th, 12th, but now we are at the 20th sanction package. And this is much more, we don't even speak of UN sanctions, which come in addition to it, but this is much more than Iran, Iraq, Venezuela, or North Korea, wherever sanctioned. An important point for the oil sanctions and the energy sector, just to mention it here, is the so-called 6th EU sanction package from June 2022. Let's move to the next slide. Yes, and you know all these former headlines. I took them from 2022. And you know it even, which is a kind of very respected economic magazine like the Common Economist, already predicted the collapse of the Russian economic model in 2022. And also, if it was Bloomberg, Reuters, I cited here, or Financial Times, they already expected a collapse in the year 2022. Okay, this was just as part looking back in what we were told and what was told to us as a forecast in 2022. Let's move forward. Okay, also in this audience, that was an eye-opener, especially for Europe, for the EU, and for Germany, because there was this idea that the so-called Western club of common values, or how was much smaller than expected, because you all know we had these sanctions, but the whole of Latin America or South America didn't take part. Africa didn't take part. The Middle East didn't take part. India didn't take part. And China didn't take part. Leave China outside, but Europe also realized in connection with these sanctions that what they call the Western morale or Western values were not shared by the majority of other states. And there is also one point which until today is ignored in Europe and especially in Germany. There are three important countries: Canada, the United States, and Australia. For them, it's very easy to sanction Russia because they don't have to take any burden. All three states are competing with Russian companies. They are competing in the oil sector, they are competing in the gas sector, and they are competing in the mineral resources sector. So we are told in Germany, in the EU, Canada, especially the United States, are sharing the burden. But actually, it's even favorable for the United States, Canada, and Australia to sanction, because they can keep all their competitors out of the market. So the only ones who really share the burden are the Europeans. I've summarized it. Next slide here again. So the takeaway is not surprising here among this audience. After this realizing there is not this Western dominated world, we see the upcoming of a multipolar world. And number 2 and number 3, I've just mentioned. The West tends to these things from their perspective. And I told about the competitive situation where at the very end we see it again now in the Middle East, sanctions or even this blockade of Iran war is to the favor of the United States. Okay, next slide. So very often, this is certainly, please apologize, this German perspective that we are very often told oil and gas, to put it simple, are a thing of the past. But here you see a slide which is from an official association of the industry. It shows that over the years, despite billions of subsidies, the renewable energy only could replace just 20%. And the problem here is 20% does say nothing, because we all know, even if you have it, electricity has to have a constant flow, and it has to be a reliable source, 365 a year, 24/7. So even with this high percentage of renewable energy, it's absolutely unrealistic to say we are getting more and more independent from oil and gas. Next slide, please. So, and what I just showed was the German perspective. But if you look, I checked all investor reports from Exxon, Shell, Chevron. There was a kind of hesitation also to move in direction of renewables some years ago. But these days, the big US oil corporations and also the British Petrol and Shell, which is British Netherlands, just focus on fossil fuels, how it is said, on oil and gas again. Next slide. So you don't have to look on both, just, I don't know if you see my cursor, but here it's interesting. Even despite the European perspective of a green transition, Exxon just had opened a new oil field in Guyana, which is in Latin America. And also have a look on this LNG footprints, because this LNG, as you know, we will have a closer look, is supposed to replace Russian gas. And they already showed that export within a short period of time have increased by 5%. But what I can say, you know it, that this LNG is at least 3 to 4 times more expensive than the pipeline gas Gazprom provided until the sanctions. We will soon see even higher prices. Next slide. So you would expect from this side that Germany has kind of pillar where it has at least one opportunity to source independent from British or US oil companies. But due to the sanctions, also the last successful cooperation of the German chemical company BASF, and the oil company is called DEA and Wintershall. This deal was no longer viable, had to be wound down. And so in the most industrial country in Europe, you find an industry which is wholly dependent on US and British oil companies. You see here Exxon, British Petrol, Shell, and Chet, which was former ConocoPhillips. Next slide. So, not surprising, I think I predicted it already in the lecture 2 years ago. Sorry about, but it's just an example. It shows that due to these cost increases, German industry no longer is competitive. And you have certainly 2 segments. The automotive industry is more influenced by the negative effects of the transition to electric cars. But our focus here is the industry which the chemical industry, which needs and needed oil and gas on 2 levels. You have not only the need of relatively or competitive energy on the production level, because for the processes you need heat, you need higher temperature, but you also need oil and gas as a component for other plastics, for polyamides, polyurethanes, and so on. And so we, at the same time, have much higher energy prices, and we have much higher material prices because, as I tried just to explain, within these materials also the prices of oil and gas are reflected as well. So, and in this respect, there is not only a general trend of more and more insolvencies, but you have a special high number in the chemical industry, and there is still another negative factor. Because the chemical industry is a highly connected, sophisticated supply chain system where one company often can use materials from the other. And if one company collapses, there is just no replacement for another company down the value chain. Next slide. Okay, this is just to show that even over several conflicts, tensions, and the US is a main competitor of Germany and Europe, the prices here for energy only have negative effects for the European Union. You see here reflected after 2022 the high prices for Europe, and you see only a minor increase regarding the prices of the United States. And if you are in the competition, you just can't compensate these huge purchasing prices. How would you? Next slide. And this shows a look in the future. It's about, the future. It's about common trades. And you see this here, you already have the early effects of the Iran conflict. And despite a slight increase in the United States, in Europe, the future tell us we are paying 6 times more than the US competitors. So, and again, this is just from the stock exchange. Nobody can doubt this kind of chart or statistic. This is just a market reflection. Next slide. And this is also how things look from a US perspective, that some US companies expect that they also can be the main exporter for LNG. in coming years and even cover 80% of LNG needs of Europe. And I have to say, also the German government already signed not only 10, but 20-year contracts. Let me also mention here that the strange thing is, apart from the high prices, the same people normally criticize horizontal drilling, this fracking, hydraulic fracturing, and would not allow it in Germany. Don't have any problems to import the same gas which was extracted from fracturing. And what we also should use as in our discussions, this LNG has to be, as you know, cooled down to minus 162 Celsius. To make it liquid, so that it can be transported. At the end, it had to be warmed up. And in this way, you waste 30% of the gas you are transporting, which is a drastic figure from looking for environmental perspective. Next slide. So this is, this audience, it looks as being a kind of map from old times. He was actually a geo, how would you call it? A surveyor, kind of surveyor, but let him call it geostrategist, the British Mackinder. And in already in 1904, he developed his hard land theory. And we may talk about it later in the discussion, but it's basically also an idea Brzezinski used for his geostrategic analysis 90 years later. And in Ukraine, it still is a good tool to understand the competition between the United States, including Great Britain and Russia. Okay, next slide.
Herr Hummel, only 2 minutes, please.
So let me also mention the present situation. And focus on China. I don't want to I love the United States. I'm there very often. And they certainly are still very strong in regard to semiconductors and software. But in many ways, they are no longer able to compete with China. So, and let's now have a wider picture, as you all know, we see a kind of competition now between the US and China. And looking on recent developments, we should have the following points in mind, in my view. I mentioned it, due to the shale gas and oil revolution, the US is basically independent of oil and gas from foreign countries. Some people would say, yes, but they are still importing. There are two reasons. Not every oil is the same. And so it just makes sense to get certain different oils depending on the end product or finished product. And certainly, and second, it makes sense because you just buy in the market, and if it's cheap, why should you produce it yourself? But again, the situation as such is we have a huge dependence on oil in the Middle East from Europe and Asia, but no longer from the United States. So, and if we look on recent developments, we now see the following. With the coup, I call it, in Venezuela, now the US pushed out, nobody talked about it, Russian companies as well as Chinese companies, and at the same time, they had it in the past, as we all know, but now they get again access to 20% of the world's oil reserves. So, and they could also, with the Iran war, they can also strangle China because China, apart from Venezuela, also got Russian oil and gets Russian oil, but also Iran oil in recent years.
Mr. Hummel, we must finish.
So the Iran war,
you must finish.
Gives the United States, I have to see the slide again, another opportunities to put pressure on China.
Mr. Hummel, you must finish, please. You must please finish.
And in a certain way, you see that from a US perspective, there is not even time pressure to solve the conflict with Iran, because the pressure is on Asia and Europe.
Thank you very much.
Next slide.
Mr.
I only see it from time to time.
Because we have another speaker. It's very important now. Miss Ulrike Gerold. She won't say something. You have 5 minutes. It's enough?
Yes. Look.
Yes or not?
Yes, it's enough.
In 5 minutes?
I just have a couple of sentences. I mean, not more.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. Wonderful.
first, I'm very happy to be invited. I remember I was there 2 years ago from Paris, and I sneaked into your conference, which is always a pleasure. Let me just state that I feel that we are losing the East-West connection within Europe. So I'm very pleased to be here because it's very important that this does not happen. But as you see the developments and all the developments that have been described, I think there's a clear danger that this everything that the EU is doing with respect to NATO, Ukraine enlargement, and so is deepening the polarization and the split between East and West. So thank you again for having me here. And I'm very eager to follow the network here. And Isabel is listening too from, the European Transcontinental Initiative. So we really would like to connect with you to build a strong East-West network within Europe. Having said this conference, first I apologize for coming late and for not being there all the time. I have been spammed. My whole day was a little bit full. The whole conference you're doing is on energy. And I'm not a specialist on energy. I listened carefully to Mr. Hummel, who I know very well. We were in Brussels together recently. So I will not pretend that I have any knowledge on energy policy that you wouldn't know better than I. However, what I think is perhaps one thought or two, because it's more a question that I have or a point for discussion. If I'm not mistaken in my analysis, the whole energy game between basically Russia and Europe and the fracking gas from the US has a clear, say, Western strategy. And the strategy is, in short, to divide the BRICS. And the division in the BRICS is one between India and China. We could see this in the last BRICS summit. And the second division is between Iran and China. Yeah. And I think behind this is the American-Chinese AI competition, because AI consumes so much energy. And the real sort of war we are facing, I think, is not Ukraine and perhaps not even Gaza and not whatever Taiwan. Taiwan perhaps for the chips production, but is essentially whether China will have the resources to lead in AI, because China is leading in AI. And the Americans know it, so they need to cut short the energy provision of China. That is my reading of the whole situation. And Mr. Hummel pointed out that Venezuela obviously matters, because Venezuela delivered, I think, 2/3 of its oil to China. Yeah. If my analysis on this is not totally wrong, I think the very fundamental point to observe is whether the Chinese will be able to build in sometime soon the fusion reactor, or this, there is this small atomic energy reactor, the fusion reactor, and another name. Yeah. And I think they're very far, because the moment that this would happen, the Chinese can basically invest in the leadership of their AI dominance. And as much as I'm reading the time we are in, everything is on AI dominance. I'm not enough specialist on this, but I have understood, or people try to explain to me, that there is a scaling effect. And there is an exponential scaling effect for the one who has the first powerful super quantum computer, and it's the Chinese. The only thing they are still missing are some Intel chips where the GAFA complex in the US is leading. And I heard that when Trump was in China and Musk accompanied him, that for the first time, and I don't know whether you know it, and I don't know whether how do you explain it and how the Americans did it, that there is one contract that has been signed with a 51% shareholder for the United States. So in all this energy game, again, I mean, my 5 minutes is, I think we need to watch the capacity of the Chinese to build the fusion reactor, one. And the second is we need to watch the divisions of the BRICS between India and China and Iran and China. And the third is to watch because the Americans are intelligent, you know. I mean, I lived in this country up and down, and yes, they are losing, and Iran was silly, and yeah, whatever, yeah. But still, this country has good strategists, and they are always ahead of one movement. And I'm just wondering what this 51% thing with the Chinese has to tell us. And I'm very eager because there's this Quanta format now with, I think, Australia, New Zealand, blah, blah, blah. I mean, the Americans have an embracing strategy of the BRICS countries. And I think it will be very, very important for the energy game, even if fracking gas is out and so. But the real variables we should look at is AI, and second, whether the Chinese will get this fusion reactor and get nuclear energy, in which case all this Strait of Hormuz sort of cutting Iran from China, I think, is less relevant, so as to allow the Chinese to win the AI battle. So these were my 5 cents, my 2 cents on a topic which I do not know a lot of. Sorry.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I won't give my many thanks, Mr. Hummel. It was very, very interesting, but a little bit long. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. Thank you. But I also sorry for let you waiting, Professor Guru.
Yeah, thank you.
No, that was not.
Now, please, all the people take your earphone. I must continue in Russian language. You don't speak Russian, you know. Okay. Сейчас очень важный момент.
Right now we will have a very important moment.
Final declaration of the Conference on Energy Sovereignty of the New Europe. Просим.
Could I try to summarize today's discussion in three points, in 3 minutes?
Okay. Sorry. Microphone, please.
Oh.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello? Is working?
Okay. You can begin.
In 3 points. One, the greatest problem of the energy challenge of the global energy challenge is geopolitics, not anything else. Second, the greatest misfits, criminals in energy challenge are Anglo-Saxon countries, especially US.
Человек Путина.
Three.
Человек Путина.
The solution for Europe would be to cut off from Anglo-Saxon countries to make more or less politics with Russia and China, and of course with Anglo-Saxon countries as well, but they would have to obey this politics, and everything would be well. Thank you.
Thank you. We all agree, of course. Mr. Beran, please.
Могу сказать, что я смотрю, я здесь только один инженер.
I'm just the only engineer here. Speaking about power industry is just like, you know, speaking about power industry without such specialists, just like about speaking about medicine without doctors. It's just about Karl Marx's basis. The basis is the larger industry, everything which is on top is all of the political market, geopolitics, etc., etc. Without that, the basis will not be functioning. Without basis. What we don't have in the European Union, first of all, in Germany, we don't have a very big scale nuclear power generation. That's number one. That's what is missing. Second of all, we don't have a lot of gas, natural gas. And without these two things, two important components, there wouldn't be any possible way to create prosperous and careless Europe. That's just my point of view as an engineer. Geopolitics serves us well so that we will be able to provide these things. Exactly, and I agree with you. Yes, thank you very much, but I completely disagree with what you have said. It's just like you have not been involved in this conference, Mr. Engineer. Second of all, I'm also a mathematician. I'm a PhD in mathematics, and I did make a construction of the hydropower plant in Karabakh, which is important to bear in mind. And it's so strange that you have been listening to all these things people have said here. And of course, it was somehow a news for me, although I've been working in power sector for many years. But it seems like that nuclear energy, Frau Ulrich, for example, said a very interesting thing.
Please take it. It's very important what I say now. So
anyway, for me, it was yet another interesting discovery. These small modular reactors, small power plants that we mentioned today, SMRs, they have big future. J.D. Vance visited Armenia earlier this year, and they signed the contract with our prime minister in Armenia. He's the last one who can sign something successfully. He was a failed journalist, and miraculously he turned into a prime minister. You know, there's been a lot of row about that. Anyway, they signed that contract, and they said that they would have these SMRs, small modular reactors, installed in Armenia. And we all started laughing at it. Seems like that Armenia inherited 440 megawatts of a nuclear power plant from Soviet Union. The first block was decommissioned, but the second one works, and Rosatom would like to install yet one more 88 megawatt power plant, or maybe even 1200 megawatt power plant. That's what Rosatom expects. And we thought that it would be actually, you know, making laugh at Armenia because they would have to decommission those. And second of all, they told us that it's not realistic. Such solutions do not exist so far. So Frau Rukin said that possibly China is capable of doing so. So again, they signed it with Armenia, and yet 1 billion have signed it with them. So basically, what's important for me, it was an actual discovery for me. Small nuclear reactors can be there, they can be installed, and they can exist. So there are two things. The future of nuclear power is something phenomenal. You know, I've been working in nuclear power, in energy sector. And second of all, I said, wind is wind. It's not just like I let the wind, we just, you know, send it to the wind. You know, different sources of energy. So It's a very interesting thing. And there was a very interesting thing about geopolitics. I completely agree with what he said, because he's Putin's man, obviously. So what he said was truth, basically. It's true. The future, the fate of energy, the power sector, is not decided by engineers. Engineers just say nice things here in conferences, but I'm just joking. You see, in European Parliament, it is decided by the European Parliament. A genius like Kaja Kallas, a real genius, Ursula von der Leyen, do that. So we have heard a few members of the European Parliament so far, and all of them are with us. And the group that we have established,
in cooperation with the members of the EU, we will organize a working group and continue our fight for energy sovereignty of Europe. Вот это наша цель. Вот этот симпозиум имеет
That's
эту цель.
exactly our goal. That's the goal of this conference. We have a very nice lobby in the European Union, and there are people who just sat right next to me, and they exactly think like we do. And they have such people in the European Parliament. There are plenty of them there. Unfortunately, so far, no one has ever let them talk. No one has ever listened to them. It's all geopolitics. It's all geopolitics. Just because of that. Absolutely. Absolutely. I do agree with you. It's geopolitics to blame horrible geopoliticians inside the EU. So we are fighting against them. And right now, I would like our people to read the declaration.
Energy sovereignty of the Europe. Любица, готов? Кто читает? Любица, это ваша идея, чтобы читали. Кто читает?
So I'm ready. I'm ready to read out.
Спасибо.
Shall I start?
Извиняюсь.
Final declaration of the conference, Energy Sovereignty on the New Europe.
Sorry. Пан Филипп, tu musi być, to co czytałem, tu musi być.
Final declaration on the conference,
Na reproduktory, mi tak było dесь.
Energy Sovereignty of the New Europe.
Mamy?
Following the conference, Energy Sovereignty in the New Europe, the participants declare the following.
Начинайте, пожалуйста, английский, потом русский. Текст читать громко.
Final declaration of the conference, Energy Sovereignty of the New Europe. Following the conference, Energy Sovereignty in the New Europe, the participants declare the following. The participants of the conference express serious concern regarding the actions of the European Commission in the field of energy regulation, which, in their assessment, have a negative impact on the energy security and economic sovereignty of the EU member states. It has been established that a number of decisions adopted by the European Commission lead to the following negative consequences. Violate the principle of proportionality in European Union law, restrict the economic rights of citizens and businesses, contradict the goals of sustainable development with regard to ensuring access to affordable energy for all segments of the population. The conference participants draw particular attention to the following systemic problems in the activities of the European Commission. Lack of transparency in decision-making affecting energy security, insufficient assessment of the socio-economic consequences of energy regulation measures, disregard for the interests of individual EU member states in shaping a common European energy policy. In order to overcome the identified problems, and ensure long-term energy sovereignty, the conference participants insist on the implementation of the following measures: parliamentary and judicial review of European Commission decisions in the field of energy regulation, strengthening the role of national parliaments in shaping and implementing EU energy policy, strict observance of the principles of the rule of law and economic rationality in decision-making in the field of energy regulation, establishment of an expert working group for energy sovereignty in order to assess risks associated with the current energy regulation policy, prepare recommendations for resolutions, draft laws, and parliamentary initiatives, develop proposals for improving energy regulation and ensuring the energy security of EU member states. The conference participants reserve the right to initiate legal proceedings within the institutions of the European Union in order to protect the interests of citizens and member states in the field of energy policy. This declaration shall be forwarded to the European Commission, the European Parliament, the Council of the European Union, the national parliaments of the EU member states. Adopted unanimously by the participants of the conference, energy sovereignty of the new Europe.
Мы подготовили на английском и на русском этот текст. Если кто-то что-то хочет прибавить или отстранять от этого текста, мы готовы послушать. Но, с другой стороны, я думаю, что
Well, on
если
the other
нам
hand, it
удастся
seems like that if we
вот такой текст отправить
will be able to send this text to the European Commission,
Европейский парламент,
to
Совет
the European
Европейского
Parliament,
Союза,
to the European,
национальные парламенты государств, членов ЕС,
to the Council of the European Union, national parliaments of the EU member states, if we're capable of doing so,
посмотрим, какой
then we will
эффект
see
от
what
этого
kind of effect
получится.
we'll have
Но, с
there.
другой стороны, господин премьер, извините, и с другой стороны, если у нас удастся внутри Евросоюза продолжать или начинать вот эту борьбу, которую мы намерены организовать, этот текст им очень поможет.
So I
Если
think if
кто-то что-то
we'll manage to do that,
пожалуйста.
this text will really help them. So if you would like to say a few words, please do. Mr. Chairman, Mr.
Разрешите мне
Chairman, I would like to suggest
ještě добавить по-английски
just one more term,
energy poverty. It means
energy poverty.
česky chudoj, чтобы мы не стали
Energy poverty, so that Europe will not become
термин
Любица, напишите
suffering
себе,
from
пожалуйста,
energy
да?
poverty, will not be suffering from energy poverty.
prevention of energy
Prevention of energy poverty.
Энергетическая худоба. Или по-чешски как будет?
Yes, we'll do that.
energetická chudoba.
Худоба.
Energetická chudoba, no.
Я думаю, это по-русски.
Po-česky, po-slovácky energetická chudoba těž. Ne, chudoba, používá se
So okay,
energetická
that's how it works. Energy poverty.
Энергетическая худоба. Хорошо, подумаем.
Energy poverty.
Окей, пожалуйста.
So I've joined the members of the conference here. Yes, please use the microphone.
Огромное количество людей на Zoom.
So there are plenty of people here. Yes, in the end, I should say that the members of the conference to start these proceedings in the European Union institutions. But we know that is there a legal right there to do so? There are 30 people like, so that in the European Union there are 30 people and they can start some appropriate actions. Yes, okay, let me take this. There are 30 people. 300 people actually listen to us at Zoom. Apart from that, if we would like in the European Parliament to start this fight, like we said, it means that on behalf of this conference, all of the members of this conference from the European Union Parliament, there were like 5 or 6 of them, and some of them spoke, we give them this opportunity to read this conclusion. That's our conclusion of this particular conference, of this particular symposium, and you may use this as a basis. You may stipulate something more powerful, something more important, or something more concise. If they have a right to initiate litigation in the European institutions, if it doesn't make sense, they may remove that, but they will have to decide on that. And number 3, I think why not contact the European Court and come up with our demands, like you have said. It's like nothing to do with power generation. It's all about geopolitics. Inside European Union, they say, how come energy, power generation? They don't know much about it, but still they instill sanctions and they dictate who to buy gas from, who not to buy natural gas from, etc., etc. And Mr. Himmel was quite right, showing that map with a pipeline with Kazakh oil pumped through Russian pipelines to Europe. Azerbaijan sells gas to Europe, and they say, what kind of gas? 7 BCM of gas max? But that's hardly enough. What's that? 5, 6 or 7 BCM of gas. That's Azerbaijan. Okay, that's not from Azerbaijan. They buy Russian gas. They buy Russian gas. And they use Russian pipelines, and they send it to Turkey, and they have this Prometheus pipeline to Italy, and then through Bulgaria, that South Stream is utilized, and that's how they use it, in a very convoluted way. So Mr. Himmel was quite right by saying that, well, just take a look at the map, and please try to find some other gas, but not Russian. So we oppose that geopolitics with all this conference that we have had here today. Of course, we have some ingenious power experts spoken here. They have highlighted very interesting topics. You said that, and our colleague from Germany did that. It adds more to our knowledge, and we'll continue doing so. And then, here is the result of this particular letter we have created. And we'll see what's going to happen. But we are optimists. We feel optimistic, and I think we're going to win. There's a chance that we will win. Or you just need to read Apostles Jan's Bible, or maybe remember Albert Einstein, who said, who knows how the Fourth World War starts and what is going to be fought with. Anyway, any other questions? I hope not, because tomorrow we have yet another important day. So right now we are wrapping up the official part, and shortly we will be enjoying some drinks, some coffee. I wish you all very well, and would like to thank all of you. Lubica and I have been tried so hard preparing this. Lubica, by the way, did you close your eyes? Do you understand that we would like to thank you Like Isabel has said, you're a real trooper, Lubica.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody that have taken part with our really interesting symposium. Tomorrow we have second part our conference, and name the second part is Armenia future is in EU or EU-Asia. It's very, very important question because somebody in Armenia play with our future, and it is very great play in 7 June after 10 days, 11 days, 10 days. In Armenia we have election, and EU Parliament make everything that this election must be falsified. And when we don't push now press in Armenia, maybe Armenian nation have no chance and must continue with this government, this awful, not professional government. Tomorrow is very important part for our symposium. Thank you very, very much, and bye-bye. Thank you.